Okay, we'll move to the next item, our superintendent's strategic plan.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lamb, and for everyone that helped participate in putting this together. Over the last 18 months, we've been on a journey to write a strategic plan for Franklin schools. When I arrived here in 2009, I took the first year and listened to what was going on in our district, and then we wrote a plan that came up with our 5 guiding principles: individual student growth, communication, collaboration, systemic thinking, and trust. And as we approached 2020, we realized that those were really good anchors. They helped us move our district. But as we move into 2020 to 2031, we wanted to write a new plan, kind of refine some things, keep the tenets of what we had in the past, but also to look forward to the future. And we have done that. We've had over, if we cumulative add everybody, over 150 people participate in the conversation. But we had on the average of about 20 to 25 every time we met. And then when COVID hit, we stopped meeting. Hard to believe, but that did happen. But we picked it back up as the school year continued. We just went to the virtual world. So today I'm here to present the first draft of the strategic plan. We have 2 of the members from the community with us who are going to help and talk a little bit about their journey. We have Mr. Scott and Ms. Jankowski. And we're going to just share a little bit about their perspective, and they're going to tell what we've been doing. And then we're going to pass it off to Dr. Warland. Myself and Ms. Gross are going to finish up and as we talk about the plan. So first up, we're going to have Ms. Jankowski.
Can you hear me? Okay, it's kind of odd talking with the mask on. Good evening, board, administration, Dr. C. My name is Barb Jankowski. Full disclosure, I live in Indianapolis. My daughter, her family, and my 2 granddaughters live in Franklin. My oldest is a 4th grader at Webb. My youngest is a future spider, and I'm a big supporter of Webb schools. I got in on planning the Google Meets, and I'd like to talk to you about the process I was really involved in is our redistricting plan. I appreciate Dr. C opening the vision and redistricting plans to all stakeholders in the community. As we looked at redistricting through the lenses of Dream, Connect, Adventure, and Achieve, we looked at the following options in terms of projected growth in enrollment, school capacity, equity, and logical districts for each school. Our input, ideas, and suggestions were welcomed and used in the final discussion of options. I applaud the board and Dr. C for making the decision to delay the final implementation until the 2022-2023 school year. This will allow for additional time for community comments, additional time to communicate the plan to parents and guardians, develop plan for students transitioning from kindergarten to 1st grade and students from 3rd grade to 4th grade, develop and communicate clear and concise guidelines and processes for inter-district transfer requests, and it allows time for parents and guardians to plan accordingly. I'm old. I've been in school situations where everything came from the top down. Parents didn't have any involvement. And I think it's refreshing that our school system here allows that. And I just want to say that I want my granddaughters to attend a school system where every student is valued and given the opportunity to develop skills and abilities to be successful after they graduate. So as we work through, the board works through, the community works through, I hope we just look at our students, our employees, our communities, and make sure we're all valued.
My name is Jason Scott. I've got 4 kids throughout the school system, 2 are at the high school, 1 at CBIS, 1 at Creekside, who's getting ready to transition out. And so I have 1 at CBIS, 1 at middle school, and then 2 here. And so on. So I went to school in IPS world. Parents just never felt like they were involved in anything. So when I got a invitation to the restructuring of the first 10-year plan, that was quite an honor. But at this group here, when we started doing the meetings back in September of 2019 to work on the next 10-year ideas and agendas, it was open to everybody. It was anybody that you knew, hey, this is where the meeting's at, this is what's going to happen. We brought in businesses, local businesses, county businesses, anyone that would be involved to help give us an idea of what we were looking for to help our kids in the future. Again, the redistricting is a need. My kids at Creekside, and we're busting at the seams. And with the expansion of some of the houses and housing developments around, it's not going to be good. I'm glad to see that there is a possibility we might look at moving the students if we can get the plans together in the next 2 meetings, which is on the 24th over the next 2 months. There's an email that was sent out about a week ago with with the link that you can get in and on Google Meet. But we're working on it. But I'm glad that we decided and listened to the parents and said, hey, we're not going to push this on us this year after what we've dealt with COVID. And but there is always a listening to the parents. And that's one thing I've always been appreciative of. That's what makes FCS special. I'm also on the side involved in the 500 Festival Education Program. Used to do a lot of mobile trips. Unfortunately, the last 2 years that's been put on hold. But I see other schools. I see what they're doing, and we have something special here. There is issues, but at least there is an agenda to listen and try to get things to do better.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So in our journey, next slide, we looked at these major elements here, and Dr. Warland will take us through those elements and then specifically talk about individual student growth.
Yes, as we've met over the last 18 months or so, I want to thank for sure Jason and Barb, and for those who may be watching or listening who've joined these conversations and will continue to do so. As we've gathered feedback and talked also with our administrators and our teachers and others who participated in these conversations, these are some of the items that you see here on the screen that have bubbled to the surface. So these have come up in those conversations. As we've now taken these ideas, you're going to see them appear in the plan, going back to that collaborative component. So on the next slide, there are 3 big elements to the plan. There's individual student growth, culture of professional growth and innovation, and financial stewardship. I'm going to start with individual student growth and the 3 goals associated with that area. Dr. Clendenning will then talk about culture and the 3 goals associated with that area. And then Tina will help us close with finance. So the first goal in individual student growth is about the learning environment. So when we look at the environment, and Barb actually spoke to a little bit of this, what type of environment can we establish that motivates all students to grow and achieve? And so the measure we will look at as we look at these objectives, which will appear here in a moment on the next slide, is really looking at our student performance data. How are our students doing and how are they growing? So the key objectives, if you can see those up there are 5 of them. And you may already be hearing these conversations as we get excited in our task force meetings and as we move forward. So the first one we actually talked about at our last meeting is this concept of alternative, you've heard of alternative schools, or you've heard an alternative program or an alternative educational pathway that may be temporary or more long-term. But in essence, how are we serving those students that don't thrive in a traditional space, in a traditional classroom? So there will be robust conversations and action team put together on that objective. Then that second one is really about looking at our instruction, our interventions and innovation. Barb, back to your point, how are we ensuring inclusive excellence, right? Every kid. The third one is about, and I'm excited about this one, you'll see elements of it over the course of the next 10 years, but this whole idea of a global understanding. this global awareness. Do you remember pre-COVID when we talked about Coogee?
Right,
Yeah?
right.
Do you remember Dr. Carlstrand talking about bringing students from abroad, and we were talking about trips to Spain and trips to France? Yeah, that. Making sure that happens and bringing more of that back into our curriculum, looking at languages across our curriculum. So really trying to re-energize some of that work on global understanding. The fourth bullet, lots of conversations. Actually, I think, Jason and Barb, we had one whole task force meeting kind of dedicated. Yes, I'm getting the thumbs up. Dedicated to looking at that 5 through 8 experience. What are we doing on the co-curricular side? What about athletics? What about esports? What about exploratories? How are we teaming teachers together to work with students and build relationships and think about maybe some of that social emotional learning? And then finally, Barb and Jason covered it, the redistricting element, so I won't spend more time there. The second goal is focused on college and career readiness, really looking at this through the lens of a K through 12 journey and ensuring consistency, ensuring communication with our families, and really engaging students early in this process. The metric we've established currently for this is looking at our freshman level college career planning course, doing a pre-test with our students, and then doing a post-test at the end of their senior project. If you'll remember right, Mary Wiedemann has been with us. Mr. Ahaus has been with us to talk about that senior project and graduation pathways. That will be a big component of our work over the next few years. The top objective is really refreshing and evaluating our K through 12 STEM program. Tied into that, I've already mentioned is the eSport component. Also looking at our math pathway right now, how we do mathematics K through 12, in addition to how we do high ability curriculum K through 12. How are we integrating robotics as we think about curricular and co-curricular? So lots of robust conversations fall into that STEM area, which is also one of our grad pathways. Grad pathways, again, bullet 2, looking at ag, education, senior projects. We have a vision for a dream, connect, adventure, achieve, kind of a journey, an individualized plan for each student that we will work with students. You'll start in kindergarten and see how all the pieces fit together. So lots of fun conversations there, and we'll continue to engage our community partners. And finally, social emotional health. This is one we spent a lot of time with at the last board meeting, right? And we also have partnered with the community on the referendum as we've looked at safety and mental health, looking at program evaluation for this piece. Natalie, on the objectives, next slide. Thank you so much. Pulling out that relationship piece again, Barb and Jason probably remember we were over at the high school, and one conversation was how we connect adults with kids and looking for ways to build those relationships. Also looking at, again, the overall mental health program and our counseling program, ensuring we don't have gaps K through 12 in that program. So those are the 3 key bullets for that first element of individual student growth. Dr. Clendenning.
The next domain is employee engagement. Last time we said we needed great teachers for individual student growth, and we're saying the same thing again. We're really focusing on looking at how do we attract and retain. We want to thank the community for the referendum. But you know what? In 2028, that's going to be time for us to look again to see what that looks like. But we want to continue to monitor that. The other significant thing in this plan, and I think Brian will see this and Andy will see this, we actually have metrics already defined. We're saying, listen, here's what we're going to measure to say, are we successful? Our last plan, it was like, well, we're going to do this, but we just came back and gave all qualitative stuff, and we never had something tangible. You're going to see tangible aspects throughout the journey. So on this one, looking at it, recruit and retain, we're going to come back and bring back that employee satisfaction chart and continue the 360 feedback loop that's been a part of our heritage. Our objectives are to continue to look at current hiring practices to ensure a diverse pool of candidates. We started that pre-COVID and we'll continue that journey. Also to review our policies so that we are a welcoming environment and providing that opportunity. And lastly is that competitive wage. You know, back in 2009 when circuit breaker hit, we stopped being competitive. But thankfully, the community said yes, And Tina and I just actually saw data 2 days ago that placed us in the middle of our peer group, like we said we wanted, with the most recent data. So we're there. But you know what? The challenge will be to stay there. And so we'll continue to look at how to offer that package. Also, how do you grow in your profession? We heard Katie today say that she was challenged. How do you grow in your profession? We love that you want to help our school district, but with your growth, we'll help our school district. So we're saying to our employees, how can you grow? Those objectives are looking at creating a culture of growth through cohesive engagement, also looking at growing our own leaders. We've done a great job of this. Our principals are really strong, but we want to continue to grow classroom teachers. We want to continue to grow support staff because we find the people that know our culture help accelerate our culture. And we're going to continue to do that. We've talked about 10X grants. We want to thank JMH for their partnership. But what does the next 10 years look like in 10X grants? You know what? We've done a really good job. And unfortunately, with COVID, we had to hit pause. We're bringing those back in 22, 23 and saying, what does that look like? We've heard about global opportunities and we've heard about different things. What does 10X look like? We'll continue to talk about that. And then also continue to reflect on an evaluation system and a growth system that really helps that individual person. So we're excited about that. The next one is employee innovation, and we're looking at staffing. You know, like in our staffing, we've said, listen, at elementary, we want that 25 cap in school class averages. But you know what? We're hearing more conversation about maybe we should think about a primary average and an intermediate average and not have one big average. Things like that are in the conversation with regard to what's going on. Natalie, you can go to the next slide. And then continuing to have each employee give feedback on the long-range goals. We want to ask the people about part of the journey here. You know, I think it's very important to hear the voice of the customer. One thing that Brian and Andy has really taught us throughout their process thinking is what's the voice say? And really the voice are our stakeholders, both community, but also students and faculty and staff. And so we're going to continue to do that. And then as a great organization, we want to make sure that our anchors tell us. That's what we're putting where our money is, where our mouth is. So we're going to send it over to Ms. Gross, and she's going to tell us if we're doing that.
Yes. So our third overarching goal is financial stewardship. We want to make sure that we are good stewards of our taxpayer money, and we funnel those funds to the right projects and the right programs. So strategic plans cost money, so we're going to have to get creative on grants and additional revenues, external funding, you know, maybe even fundraising. So as you can see, there's about 7 objectives under this particular goal. The first couple that we'll focus on are developing an annual budget that reflects the prioritization of staffing, programming, and operational needs. If we do that, we'll be able to fund some of these visionary dreams that Dr. Worland and Dr. Clendenning have. And then also focusing on identifying efficiencies in our operations, so we can free up some money internally to be able to do some of these things. So the committee that we put together for financial stewardship will be focused on these objectives over the whole course of the 10-year plan. So what are next steps? Well, we need to form subcommittees because it takes a village to pull something like this off. So we want very diverse subcommittees, you know, teachers, custodians, food services. We need voices from all different areas. We also need to get, we need some structure around this to hold ourselves accountable. So a good Gantt chart will keep us on track and hold us accountable to timelines and budgets and things like that. And then we're also planning to develop a dashboard to track our progress, so the public can go to our website and see exactly where we are with these initiatives. Dr. Warland and I have studied a free tool through ECRA, educational something consulting research group, I think. So as you can see, it's pretty basic. Like you can pull something up and see we're 53% through one of our initiatives, and it's a pretty user-friendly, easy tool for us to be able to implement. And I think it's going to be a link on our website, and then when you click on that link, it'll take you to something that looks like this. So we'll be able to update it periodically and make sure that we're making progress.
And as we look forward, we created this transformational map also to show us where we've been. And so you'll notice the three different areas with an array out there dividing them. Financial stewardship on the far right, individual student growth in the middle, and then culture, professional growth, and innovation. And you see those dots, those are the big rocks for us right now. And what a person will be able to do is click on those big dots, and it'll take you further into the plan as we travel forward in our transparency and sharing information. And as Ms. Gross said, each of us will oversee that and then create subcommittees. One of the things that's going to take place is, yes, I'm overseeing professional growth and innovation, but I'm actually going to be passing that off to some other people. And then my job will be the overseer of all of it, similar to what we do in our systems thinking with the project charter. And then the board, you guys are the ultimate overseers of this. And we'll continue to come back and share the results of where we're headed and make changes in our plan, do, study, adjust model that we need to. So that is the overview of our strategic plan. It's been refined and defined for us to help move forward to 2030.